get things going in a few minutes. Stephen? John, for you.
Yeah, I'm representing United Innovations that wants to buy the 1 Cabot Street. Okay. Gizmo.
It is on, okay? Right, so if you're more comfortable taking it out of the stand, go ahead and do that. Hold it where, any way you want, but it's on. Okay, good evening. This is the November 9th meeting of Development and Governmental Relations Subcommittee. I'm David Bartley. With me is Joseph McGivern and Josie Valentine. The first item on our not terribly long agenda is for a public hearing, so I'm going to need a motion.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing is now open, and so my next job is to read the notice. The Development Governmental Relations Committee of the City Council will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 9th at 6:30 p.m. It's now 7 p.m., but that's okay. In the City Council chambers at Holyoke City Hall to hear a special permit application for a special permit for a non-conforming use at 1065 Hamden Street for Mr. and Mrs. Robert Everett. And so we have with us Mr. and Mrs. Everett that are here. And so, Mr. Everett, Mrs. Everett, if you want to just come to the mic and tell us, just give us a synopsis of what's happening.
Yes, on the property, there's an existing garage that's been there for 80 years, and our original intention was to, we're talking to Mr. Cody, we were originally going to try to save the building and rebuild it in place on the same footprint, and would consequently, with talking with him, he said that we're better off taking this process and going through for a special permit to demolish the building because it's in such bad, it's in disrepair to the point where you can't get the door open. It's leaning over onto my next door neighbor at 1075. So it will eventually probably fall into his property. And the backbone of it is also, I've got some pictures here if you'd like to see them. The top of it is bowed like this. So it is in disrepair, and it's several contractors had come and have taken a look at it, and it's of their opinion that there's no sense trying to save this thing. It's just in such bad shape that we need to knock it down and start over. And while we are knocking it down, we would like to expand it. It is, I believe, the width of the garage right now, this, again, the garage was built, would you like to take this? Yeah, absolutely. There's, the garage right now is only 11 feet wide. We'd like to make it, it's 11 feet by 22 and a half long, and there's also an attached shed to the back of it, which is another 8 feet. So it's basically like 30 feet, 31 feet long on the property line and 11 feet wide. And the 11 feet is, they've got, if you can see in the picture, they've got the way it's built. It's built for 80 years ago. We can barely get an SUV in there. We both have SUVs. And if you get it in the garage, you can't get out of the vehicle. So we'd like to expand.
That's not very convenient, is it?
Yeah, well, we haven't used the garage since we've owned the house, except for just storage.
Have you thought about a smaller car? I'm just kidding. Go ahead, keep going.
A quad, maybe. So we'd like to go from the property line over onto our property to a standard-sized garage, which would be 24 by 24.
Okay, and I neglected to mention, we have Counselor Jim Leahy with us as well. Sorry, Jim. Okay, questions from does that pretty much cap it?
Pretty much, yep.
Okay, Counselor Joe McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I apologize to everybody. I wasn't supposed to be the third member here this evening, but unfortunately, two other members could not be here. And my plan was originally to be late, but I do apologize because I know it was a 6:30 meeting. I just want to make sure, I'm not sure if that's why Marcos is here, but the non-conforming is because the footprint of the garage is in the setbacks or don't meet the setbacks of the zone?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
So you want to, because it's been an existing non-conforming use, you want to keep it?
Keep it on the property line. We would actually move it 3 inches onto our property because there was, it, in the registry of deeds, the property was surveyed years ago when the next door neighbor sold the house, and there was an easement on the driveway, which we have subsequently, we've taken care of that. That was, we gave them back that property. It was, the driveway was like, I think, started at no inches and went all the way to a foot down the other end. So that was cut, and then that easement was taken care of on the deed. But because of the lean of the building, it's leaning over 3 inches onto his property at the worst spot. So we were gonna move the building 3 inches this way because the building right now doesn't even have a foundation. When they built that 80 years ago, they just built it on dirt. And the sill plate has been, well, it's not even a sill plate, it's just pressure-treated lumber. That's been cut, that's been replaced, and things like that. But we want to make it bring it up to the standards of today. And we would like to move it 3 inches on our property, just to make sure that that is always going to be on this side of the property line.
I take it you've talked to your neighbor?
Oh, yeah, yep.
I think our job is to make sure this is no more detrimental to what the existing zone says now
Yep.
to what it would be, and certainly taking down the structure makes sense, and I would think any neighbor would want a new structure as to what exists now in terms of what you're describing. Is there, your neighbors in favor of it?
Absolutely, yes, yep. Nobody has expressed any concern whatsoever, and as a matter of fact, the neighbor that's mostly involved, I invited him to the meeting tonight, and he said, I don't have to go, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do, and I'm good with it, so.
Okay, I think we invited him to the meeting tonight too, if,
We
I'm
did.
pretty sure we sent a notice to
Yes,
all your
he got it.
butters, but.
All your butters,
Yeah.
yes.
But, okay, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Councilman Gibbon. I don't have any comments here from other city departments or staff. But I guess now I'll take, Councilor Valentin? No. I guess now I'll take a moment to ask if there's anyone here from the public, for or against, who would like to speak. Going once, going twice. Okay.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing and grant the special permit.
Second.
On the table is a motion to close the, Joe, can we close the public hearing first? And just, can we separate those out?
Sure, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion on the table is close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have another motion, please?
Motion to grant the special permit.
Second.
Motion on the table is to grant the special permit. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. So, what we've done, Mr. and Mrs. Everett, is made a recommendation to the full city council. And then the full city council will meet on the 17th of November, a week from tomorrow? Week from tomorrow. Oh, wow, I'm slipping. A week from tomorrow, and we will talk about your proposal, and we'll see how it goes. All right? You don't need to be here at the meeting, no. That's really in your hands. You know, I don't want to advise you one way or the other, but
You're welcome to
you're-
call city councilors and check them out before the meeting.
oh, without a doubt. No, no, you won't be, I mean, I could make a note if you are here. I mean, first of all, I don't know where you'd be on the agenda, so that's always a consideration. And then, there is an option, we could suspend our rules and allow you to speak, or another option would be that if you get here early enough, you can sign up for public speaking, and you can address the city council in public speak time, which is usually in the first couple minutes of the meeting. So, those are your options. Okay, thank you. You're all set?
Thanks.
Okay.
Good luck.
You want the binder back?
We have to keep it. Sorry, we should have told you that up front. Yeah, we'll copy it, and we'll keep the copy and give it back to you. Sorry. Yep.
that's more than reasonable. Okay, I'll get a motion for number 2 then, take off the table.
Motion to take item 2 off the table?
All in favor? Aye, okay. Agenda item number 2, let's see, in accordance with 30B, Holyoke Procurement Ordinance, vote to consider an offer from United Innovations, DBA Specialty Loose Leaf, to purchase a parcel of land and building located at 1 Cabot Street for $10,000. Said property is located in the assessor's et cetera, 2.289 acres, 200,000 square feet. Property is owned IG, assessed value of $440,000. That's that. So we have with us, I think, Ms. Merrow, John Dijak. So John, why don't you come on in? So welcome to Marcus Moreau and John Dijak from the Office of Planning and Economic Development. They're going to be here with us for this order and the subsequent 2 orders. So Marcos, you want to give us tell us what's happening with this?
Sure. Good evening, and thanks for having us here. This property was taken for back taxes several years ago. It's about 250,000 square feet of mill space right next to the Willimantic Bridge. Considerably sized property and age building. It houses a company that employs, 24 full-time employees and 5 part-time employees doing manufacturing and assembly of paper products. Request for proposals was issued early this year, and only 1 proposal came in. That was the proposal that's before you for $10,000, and it was accepted. That's basically it. The sale of the property is as is condition, and the buyer would take it and invest about $500,000 into updates into the property. And immediately start paying taxes.
Is that okay, Marcos? John, do you want to add to that?
Thank you. I just wanted to add that Jim Richmond is here representing the company. 1 Cabot Street, formerly, the company that's there is called Specialty Loose Leaf. Actually, their main product is actually a binder. They make binders for different industries, and it's actually been a very successful business over the years. Unfortunately, I think about 2009, 2010, when the former company went out of business, Jim, who works at United Innovations and the owner of that company, Chris Parent, purchased the assets of Specialty Loose Leaf, and we've over the years the Holyoke Economic Development Industrial Corporation has done several projects with the former company. And unfortunately, when the business was struggling about 5-6 years ago, that's when the property was taken by the city. So I think Jim is available to speak on the proposal. There's a significant background with the project. We'd like to see it continue to be productive with the jobs and getting tax revenue for the city.
So Johnny, where are we with the amount of taxes that were when the city took the property? What do you happen to research that for us?
I did. Taxes was about. After that was the gas.
How much heated that was there? Is all that included in the 440, John? No, that's above and beyond. Oh, okay. Okay, so with the G&E, the city, and HEDIC, we're somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000, so that'd be fair? That's about right, if I'm doing my math right. So the 440 included the city, the gas and electric, and then add 145 to that, so about 600,000, right, so, okay, and then I just for the public, I'm glad the vice president of the company's here, that's great. I did read your technical proposal. I guess I'd have a couple of questions, but does anybody on the committee want to speak first?
Just questions if I could.
Councilor McGivern? Your
You
mic,
assess-
Joe.
The assessed value, current assessed value?
Our assessed value is 440,600, I believe.
And John, the building 1 Cabot Street is about how many square feet and how much land?
It's about 210,000 square feet. The land is a little over 2 acres. I believe it's 2.2 acres.
Thank you. All set.
Yeah, and if I may, it's a, so we have a brand-new bridge, right? So that was a fun process, wasn't it, waiting for that, waiting for that to happen, 4-year delay. We should be bending over backwards with applause for Pat Supermarket and the rest of the businesses there that hung in there, Rookies and Capri, whatever, so, 4-year delay, and when I read this proposal, well, I'm glad somebody's bidding on it, that's outstanding. And I see Jim's letter, which is, honest and straightforward. The heating system needs to be upgraded. The roof leaks badly. The windows are deteriorating. But the line that gets to me, we do not have immediate plans to make major improvements. So when I read that, I get a little suspicious that we have a building here that is just right over the Connecticut River from Chicopee. We have a brand-new bridge. We have a building that's right at one of the gateways to the city. And I'm glad we put out the RFP, guys. I mean, you're doing your job, and Marcos, you know how much I respect you. I do. But I, for one, do not like this proposal. I don't think it's a real proposal. I think that the dollars are insignificant. I think leaving the city like this with no plans in here whatsoever. I mean, there's an aspiration, there's numbers here, so obviously the applicant put together numbers, but I, for one, will say to you right now in public, I will not support this bid, but that's just me. So, anybody else want to say anything? Comments? I'll need a motion then, I guess, if there's anything else, unless you want to hear from the applicant, or
The applicant make a proposal?
he can, if he wants to.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jim Richmond.
Turn the mic up to you, Jim, just so, that's it, thank you.
Part of that proposal there is, I was trying to be realistic. I mean, I don't want to mislead somebody by thinking that as soon as we get in there, we're going to rebuild that whole building, because we can't afford to, realistically. I mean, our intent, obviously, is to make improvements as we can afford them. Though, I know on the backside, like the windows, those windows are falling apart. Some of the ones around the front have been replaced, but we can't just say, I'm going to go in and spend God knows how much money to replace every window in that thing. I don't, and that's part of why that statement's in there. I don't plan like immediate major improvements, because I don't want to mislead somebody and think that we're going to rebuild that thing. We can't afford to. And we can't afford to move the business. It doesn't generate the kind of capital they could go out and rent another spot and hire riggers to come move it all. We've had that kind of stuff quoted, and it's just expensive. So we're kind of stuck. The whole situation is not very good. I mean, we like the business, want to keep it running, sure.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, Jim, if you have no plans to fix the building, I
Well,
mean, you've essentially been there rent-free for years now.
Well, it's not exactly rent-free,
Is it rent been paid?
a couple thousand a month. Yeah.
Were you collecting rent from the Massachusetts Division of Traffic, or whatever they call themselves?
Well, the construction companies, yeah,
DOT?
we did for, yes, while they were.
You collected
building
rent
the
from
bridge.
DOT, yet you didn't own the building. Did you pay the city rent?
Yes.
How much?
I believe we pay, I think it's like $2,200 a month to the city for rent.
And where's that money?
That would be with the treasurers. That was not an agreement with us.
Okay. So are we using that money to fix this building that we own?
Well, there was well, technically it all goes to the general fund, so yes, there was a water main break about a year ago that cost the city money, but it's not a special fund that's been created for that. It is, and if I may, I do understand the reservations with the proposal, given the technical proposal in front of you, but it is a liability. That is part of what is at issue here. Also, the retention of jobs.
I appreciate that. It is a liability, and I do appreciate the job part and keeping specialty loose leaf going, because I think Edic did that for as long as we could, and then Edic got slapped in the face with the loan being reneged on. That's a separate story at the moment. But Jim, the city doesn't want to own the building. We own the building because of the former owner, dumped it on the city by not paying taxes, by not paying the gas and electric, the sewer, and so on. I apologize. I didn't think there was any rent being paid whatsoever. At one time, we were led to believe that. I'm not too sure where the rent went to, but I think it could have been escrowed and at least some of it put back into the building itself. But if you want to own the building for $10,000, you're assuming the liability. But where's our assurances that when you're done, there's no fix-up to the building, and the building doesn't just get dumped back on the city when you stop paying taxes?
I don't know how to guarantee, I mean, I don't know what you expect me to say in terms of guaranteeing it. Our intention is to operate the business and pay the taxes as we have been, and rent, and well, if we own a building, we don't have to pay rent, but
Could you
taxes, the electric
share with
bills.
us the taxes that you have been paying?
The taxes, we were paying taxes, when we first got involved with this, Westfield Bank owned it, so we paid them essentially the mortgage the previous owner had defaulted on, and the taxes to the city of Holyoke. And then when Holyoke took it over for back taxes, it was kind of weird because there was an interim period there where we were still paying rent to Westfield and the taxes, but then when everybody realized the city now owned a building, so for a while the previous treasurer had us paying in lieu of taxes the actual tax amount, but he called it in lieu of taxes instead of taxes because the city owned a building. So it's like, you can't pay taxes to yourself. But then finally, when he left office, they stopped the in lieu of taxes because they didn't think it was appropriate because the city owned a building. So we continue to pay rent as we do now, but we don't pay taxes at the moment, for the last, whatever it's been, year or two.
$2,200 rent for 2.2 acres with a building that's 210,000 square feet is pretty cheap.
It is, no doubt about it. That was just the previous mortgage amount that Westfield Bank had.
The city's biggest mistake was not going after Westfield Bank because they dumped it on us. They didn't want it because they saw what we have in front of us now. It's a no-win situation no matter what we do here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I know that I appreciate your frankness and your straightforwardness in the application. I also appreciate the fact that you're running a business there and you're employing some, probably a lot of Holyokers, so up to 24, and then, and I don't want that business to be impacted. It's my opinion that that the city should try again with another RFP or put it out for auction, which there is an auction. I spoke to the treasurer, there is an auction probably in February. That's the most likely time period. And that this might be a potential for that. It's just, to me, Jim, and the liability aspect, I get it, but, you know, I don't think that's a red herring that should be put up at this late stage of the game. That's been a liability for numerous years. So, I'd rather have a technical proposal from an applicant that realizes that part of Holyoke is coming around, and and then that they're willing and able, and I saw the reverter clause on there, I saw that, but, you know, we've got an interesting history with reverter clauses in this community, that they somehow just get extended year after year after year after year. But now we have a part of the city with you know, rail coming in now, with the businesses down there, with a new bridge. I just would have rather see a technical proposal, and I'm just one vote. I'd rather see a technical proposal that recognizes this and that's serious about doing something with the building. But that's just me. Counselor?
Thank you. Could we hear from the Office for Planning and Economic Development on what those logistics would look like, and if that's feasible? Just, it would help me make the decision as well.
Logistics for what exactly?
For what Councilor Bartley is proposing about going back to RFP and pretty much start, I mean, that's what I'm understanding he's saying.
So if the council were to deny the proposal, which is what I think the scenario that we're discussing, then it is property for surplus that the city would have to put out for procurement again. So we would more than likely issue another request for proposals, get the temperature of interested parties that do industrial development, potentially even discussing with the current applicant to improve that proposal, and then it would be open and competitive. That would be on the timeline of the purchasing department, so their calendar considerations for announcing it and having it open. So that could probably be, from the moment that it's advertised, probably 6 weeks. It would be out there. Once a proposal comes in, depending on how many proposals it is, it could take a couple of weeks to evaluate them. If it's one proposal, it's very easy. If it's 5 proposals, it could be much more complex. Usually there's an internal committee that evaluates it and provides a recommendation to the mayor. The mayor looks at them and then ultimately sends a proposal back to city council, which is the process that we follow to be here today.
So would we be tabling this, or would we be straight out denying it? Or, I mean, I'm just...
You can, your point of order, that's what you're making?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, you can make any number of motions. You've got those array. You can, I mean, tabling it, I in my opinion, is not going to really change this technical proposal, right? So, voting to support it says that you want the city to accept the offer of $10,000, and the city would, and there's a reverter clause on in your packet, in the packet, so it would be subject to a reverter. So that would be another option. The other option is to deny the application. So that's where we are. Councilor McGivern.
Marcus, what's the reverter clause based on?
The reverter, I didn't read it today, but it should follow our standard provision that in 2 years they should have done substantial completion of their technical proposal. So while they're indicating that improvements wouldn't start immediately, they would have to have substantial completion of them in 2 years.
So we're hearing there's no plan to do these renovations, and we're giving them a reverter that says in 2 years, if you don't do the reservations, we take the building back. That doesn't favor the city, that favors the applicant. They're getting a building for $10,000 for 2 years, don't have to do a thing, and then they can walk away without any penalties.
Well, if you're only considering the purchase price, then that's one way of looking at it. We're looking at it holistically as this is a liability that's already had an infrastructure problem that has cost the city money to repair. There is a business with over 25 people employed, and that would provide it stability to continue operating. But yes, if you're only taking it from the purchase price, then I can see your argument.
Do we have a projection on taxes that will be collected over the 2 years?
I don't have the figure in front of me, but it's the assessed value times, I think it was like $12,000 and $14,000.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Those type of taxes are going to be paid by specialty?
Yes, whatever the taxes are, we'd pay them.
Well, you haven't, not your fault, Jim, but you haven't come close to that. That's a lot more than what the in lieu of figure was.
I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I think for the first couple of years we were there, we paid reasonable real estate tax on that. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I'll bet it was close to that.
Well, I'll just make a comment right now. So just my quick math here. So if you do 440.6 times 39, 39.5, we'll just do that. That comes out to $17,403, 17,403. So there's your annual taxes. Now, if I take 2,200 times 12, that's $26,400. So in reality, the way this is structured, your company would actually pay less in taxes to the city of Holyoke than what this convoluted rent or non-rent thing is. I mean, you'd actually be paying $9,000 less. I mean, it's bizarre. The whole thing's bizarre. I mean,
The whole thing
I
is
credit.
bizarre, I'll give you that.
I just don't see it. But that's me, Councilor Valentin.
So, how long has Specialty Loose Leaf been there?
Well, our company's been involved since March of 2011. I mean, they've been making binders, I think, in that building for the last 100 years under National Blank, Avery Dennison, and Avery.
I'm sorry, I should have rephrased that question a different, I'm just trying to figure out, these 29 employees, they've been there how long, just average?
A lot of them have been there since, like 30 years or better, because they were involved back when it was Avery Dennison and Avery. And I mean, that's another problem we have, of course, is some of them are retiring, in the next few years, so we got to replace them. So, but a lot of them have been there a long time.
Have you looked at any other options in terms of if this were to not come through? Are you looking at leaving Holyoke? Are you looking at other places in Holyoke?
After we got involved with it, we did look into the cost of what it would take to move it to another building, because we do own a building up on 120 Whiting Farms Road, although it would not fit all that equipment. But we also were looking at a place in Springfield. But the problem is that the cost of moving it really is prohibitive. I mean, we actually got riggers to quote moving the equipment, just the equipment we'd need, and it's expensive. And that business, I don't think could support that. If we had to pay all that and run a new place for undoubtedly a much higher price, it just wouldn't work.
So your plan would be to stay there? I mean, if this
That's our current plan, yes, because we like the business, and, the building is, well, just, we're sort of stuck with it. We don't want that building either, because it's just, the $10,000 is really just a token, because the money's going to end up being spent on maintenance in the building. I can guarantee that. I mean, we'll have to do things to it.
So I guess I'm just looking at the two kind of theories here. The fact that we're looking to keep a business in the city, which is why I was asking, if this were to not go through, do you have a plan B where you're looking at another place to relocate? I'm also listening to what Mr. Marrero is talking about regarding liability and the structural issues, and is it a quote-unquote ticking bomb with the winter coming? You know, I'm looking at all of that, and I also see Councilor Bartley's point about 10,000 seems like, you know, when you look at it on paper and you look at the numbers, it's a little hard to kind of,
I understand.
you know,
Yeah.
to accept that. So, so I understand that there's some hesitation. I'm just trying to find out what, and I guess I'm looking at Joe because Councilor Bartley can't make a motion, but I would just, you know, entertain a motion that we think would be most productive in this case scenario, which is why I was asking what the timeline would be, what the logistics would be, and go from there. But it's pretty obvious that what's in front of us now it doesn't feel comfortable, and it's just kind of where it's at.
So motion, or any other comments for the committee? Counselor?
Recommendation of the Economic Development Department?
We put forward this proposal, fully understanding that it has many shortcomings. However, it is the proposal being put forth by the executive to the legislative branch. So our recommendation is to move forward, given the issues with the liability, making sure that we have a business that can stay in operations in the city. We believe it outweighs the negatives of the proposal.
If we had a plan to fix the roof, we had a plan to, eventually do the heating system over, and I would think there's a lot of unoccupied space in the building.
Yes.
The plan of getting that space occupied, the $10,000 makes sense. But we have an applicant who says they don't want the building, they just want to keep the business. So I get what you're saying, but I don't see the plan, formalizing. Am I wrong? Am I missing something?
The company would be obligated to make improvements in the 2-year window.
But the reverter works to their favor, because if they don't make improvements, we take it back for $1 and we have a building that nothing has been done to for 2 years now. It's in worse condition.
We collect all this money.
If the scenario works in which nothing happens in 2 years, yes, but we need to take into consideration that we don't have a crystal ball and don't know what will happen to the building.
I agree.
If something collapses in the building and something happens like the Essex, then we certainly come out in front.
That's exactly what we're getting at. If the roof doesn't get fixed, we're facing another Essex. Are we going to fix the roof?
We have to do something with it. It's got some pretty good leaks in it, so I'm not sure what total.
Are we going to replace the roof?
Pardon?
Are we going to replace it?
I doubt if we're going to completely replace it, because that I know is horribly expensive. We did that up on Whiting Farms Road when we first got that building. That's expensive, but I think it can be repaired.
Jim, what's your 10-year plan for the business?
Well, hopefully to grow it, expand it. I mean, there's some other avenues.
At that location?
Yes.
So if you're looking to stay there for 10 years, doesn't it make sense that you need a good roof over your head?
Sure. And to replace the windows that are falling out, yes. I mean, that's what our intention is to do. It's just we're going to have to do it at a pace that the income from the building can support it. I mean, the business.
We also have the option of sending it to full council without a recommendation. I don't know if that would be, John has his hand up.
Johnny? Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, this reverter has a provision where the work must start within 6 months, the works that's described. It's not the full 2 years. We can exercise within 6 months if the work hasn't started.
And the work described I never got a copy of the proposal, but the work described in the proposal is replacing the roof or just substantial renovation?
Councilor Bartley has the wording right there. You have it in front of you?
Sure, property be conveyed with the understanding development and activity on the parcel will occur in accordance with the submitted technical proposal.
No, but I mean, what they're saying they
That's
would,
what the verdict clause is saying, so it'll,
what the work they're saying they would do in terms of repairs, or what the plan is, I guess is what I was referring to.
their technical proposal?
Yeah, is there any wording regarding,
And on page
No.
two, if I could add, it talks about the description of the work that they
that's what I'm talking about.
are looking at, the new heating system,
Yes.
replace the roof, repair windows, repave the parking area
So the wording is replace the roof,
is,
and they have 6 months to start this work, correct?
that's the reverter.
That's what I was referring to.
And the applicant is before us this evening agreeing to that.
Well, I don't think, I mean, if I could just correct the counselors here, I mean, I'm sorry you didn't get the technical proposal here, but, this is what he wrote. The heating system needs to be upgraded. The roof leaks badly and needs to be replaced. The remaining windows in the building are deteriorating and something will have to be done with them soon. Quote, "We do not have immediate plans to make major improvements," unquote. So there's that. So you define immediate any way you want to define it. Then the reverter clause says, just, property can be conveyed with the understanding development and activity will occur in accord with the submitted technical proposal, which I just read. Improvements and re-tenanting of the building will begin no later than 6 months from the date of closing, which is what John Dijak which said, if such development does not begin within the 6-month period following the closing, the buyer shall be required to reconvey title to the premises to the seller for 90% of the sale price. So that's, such development does not begin within the 1-year period, the buyer shall be, I mean, there's a sliding scale. So 6 months, they get 90%, the city can take it, after 1 year, city can take it back and get 75%, and then 2 years, if nothing happens, the buyer shall be required to reconvey title to the premises to the seller upon request of the seller for 50% of the price. So do the councilors understand that now? So 6 months, city can take it back, they have to repay 90%. 1 year, city can take it back, they have to repay 75%. 2 years, same thing, the city repays 50%.
Not the standard dollar reverter, huh?
No, the idea behind that one was that to create a sliding incentive. And also the thinking when we put the RFP in is that if you pay a substantial amount for a large building and you put a dollar reverter on such a large property, it may disincentivize proposals to come in. So that reverter was written before the RFP went out, clearly.
What's your pleasure?
I just wish that, the information we heard from you tonight was more enticing. I mean, it's just, it's not, it doesn't seem like, the question is, what are the benefits? What are the benefits for us in doing this? What are the benefits for you? What are the benefits for these employees? Et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'm struggling with.
Motion to deny the proposal.
Well, I can second it, so I will second it. Before us is a motion to deny. On discussion? Hearing none on the motion. I'm going to say yes, Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's denied. We're gonna, Mr. Richardson, we're gonna recommend that to the city council. All you do is recommend. from this point. So it'll go to the full city council on 17 November and Tuesday night, and we'll see what the other members have to say at that point. It's no discredit to you or your business. We respect you tremendously, as we do Ms. Muriel, so I want to make that emphatic. But it's just my hope that we'll put this out for another RFP, but that's just me. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time
Okay.
very much.
Yep, thanks.
Just, counselors, give me 2 seconds, please. Okay,
Motion to take item 3 off the table?
item number 3. Oh, great. We, item number 3, that the city council in accord with 30B and the procurement ordinance vote to accept an offer, or vote to review an offer, I should say, but vote to accept an offer from Holyoke. So why'd I say medical center? It's not medical center.
It is.
It is?
No, I'm sorry, Holyoke Health Center.
Yeah, yeah. Holyoke Health Center, sorry, Jay. Holyoke Health Center to
I read health, too.
purchase, it's all good, to purchase a parcel of land and a building located 245 High for $5,000. Said property is described, okay, in the assessor's book and all that. Property is more particularly described in the Registry of Deeds, okay, it's own downtown business BC, and has assessed value of $151,000. So we have the, Jay, are you the executive director or president? I was over 2, thank you. All right, so, thank you, Jay, for making me feel good. Okay, so we have the CEO with us, but just as importantly, we have Mr. Marrero, Mr. Dijek with us from OPED. Mr. Marrero, Mr. Dijek, take it away.
Pretty straightforward proposal. This is the building right across from City Hall, and abutting the Holyoke Health Center. It's about 3 stories and thin. It's been vacant for several years. The health center is seeking to acquire it in order to expand its service offerings, starting with the first floor, which would generate not just additional services to the community, but also more foot traffic and reduce the blight of the building. It'll also offer the benefits of them being able to invest in the building and not suffer any damages from its lack of maintenance as they have in the past. Right now, the building is not paying taxes. The city owns it. Clearly, that's why we're here. It was taken for back taxes as part of the conditions in the RFP. The proponent, if it was a nonprofit, as has become standard in our RFPs, would be required to have a 50% pilot agreement. So it would be paying half the taxes that it would otherwise be required, as the health center is a nonprofit.
And thank you, Marcus, for that. Always spot on. What, Marcus, or John, do we know what the city has accrued in back taxes to date?
I have that information right here, 1 second.
Thanks, John. And did the committee want to hear from Jay? Because if you do, we maybe just kind of get that.
Please.
Sure, yeah.
When the property was taken for the back taxes, it was about $63,000, and this was, the taking was in March of this year. I think it's also important to mention that the last owner of the building was a CDC located in High Street, and for several years they were unable to maintain the property, and it's my understanding that the health center maintained the property, repaired it from water damage, and has kept the property in good shape since, I believe they share a wall, if I'm not mistaken, and so it was important that the property was stabilized. Over a year ago, Mr. Brandis had inquired about the property and has been periodically asking the status, because the sooner they can access the building, the sooner further repairs can be done.
Thank you, John. Jay, you want to come up to the microphone, just say your name and correct title?
Jay Brynas, Chief Executive Officer, Holyoke Health Center.
So, Jay, I'm sort of repeating what Marco said. Do you want to add something to that? And, I guess more particularly, Jay, I mean, I read your proposal. I saw about the first floor. I noted in here that, there's aspirations to take care of the second and third floor at some point. I read a few things that you were hopeful to maybe have expand the healthcare offerings to the public to include optometry. So, why don't you just sort of elaborate on that, if you will?
Sure. The building's actually 5 stories, but there's no stairs above the second floor. So there's a series of ladders that allowed me to get to the top floor to see the building years ago. Because we do share a wall with that building, we have entertained the opportunity to open up that wall from our building and have our stairs and our elevators in our building be used as the conveyance opportunity to get to those upper floors. We had some engineering done years ago when we thought we would be able to acquire it from the previous owner, which was Solutions CDC, but they basically petered out of business before anything could really happen. So we couldn't go forward at that time. We have been spending regular resources to maintain and repair the building. We've had we had 2 floods in there. DJ is one abutter on the other side, and Mass Surgical, and we're on this side. And when the basement flooded, both of us got wet. We had our guys go in there and deal with it, and eventually get the plumbing corrected. We exterminate it regularly. There are very large rodents in that building that, without us exterminating that building, they wind up coming to our building. We think that's under control at this point. We are out of space at this point at the Holyoke Health Center, and that's really the driving issue here, that we continue to grow. We want to continue to grow, and that's great space for us to grow into since it abuts our building. To the extent that we can open up the first floor on High Street, we're excited about the opportunity to create some retail presence down there. Our first floor on Maple Street is our pharmacy. We have thousands of patients a week in and out of there. We're hopeful that the first floor of this particular project would become an optometry site for our practice. During this past year, we were successful in getting federal funding to grow an optometry program, to buy new equipment. There's no monies in there specifically for renovation and so forth, but it's our feeling that if the building was received by us, we would then be able to figure out how to come up with the capital to make that building work for us. The rest of the 4 buildings that we currently own that are adjacent to that space have received about $23 million of investment from the Holyoke Health Center by various mechanisms, grants and tax credits and so forth. So we think we've got the ability to continue to create programs as the need arises. We think we could make that property very productive for the city in terms of its location being right opposite City Hall and add something to downtown.
Thank you, Jay. Committee members, any questions?
I don't have a question. I make a
Comments?
comment. I think like most city councilors, we've all seen the inside of what the Holyoke Health Center has become, and it's an incredible investment in terms of infrastructure. It's an incredible offering of medical services, in a variety of forms, for residents of the city of Holyoke. And I fully believe, if our Chief Executive Officer of the Holyoke Health Center says they're going to renovate this building, that they will do so in a timely fashion. I guess I do have a question. Is there a reverter on this that makes sense in terms of timely fashion?
Yes, there is a reverter because we include that in every one of the RFPs. I don't exactly remember if it was $1 at 2 years or if it's also the sliding scale.
Well, for Jay, it can be $1.50.
I don't see it in the packet. I don't see it in the council papers or,
We can get back to you on it before the city council meeting.
yeah, if you would,
Good, please.
please. Echo, sorry, Joe.
No, I'm fine, but thank you for the presentation.
Counselor Valentin?
Just to second the comments about the investment that the Holyoke Health Center, not to be confused with the medical center, because the medical center is not coming across the street, has done for the city and downtown, and just to applaud your efforts for looking at the options of growing and continuing to support our community, so thank you.
Just to make everybody even a little bit more confused, though, I could add that we, during this past year, put up over $200,000 into the building to make space for the Holyoke Medical Center to move in. So the Holyoke Medical Center is now a tenant in that building, and they've brought mammogram and ultrasound and laboratory services into the space to be essentially a partner with us and to add their services to what we're providing so that the patients can have as many comprehensive services as possible. We have, as I said, brought other tenants downtown as well. The Gandara Mental Health Program came into our building. We actually needed the space that they came into, so we actually arranged for them to go into the Steiger building, which is owned by the Appleton Corporation. So we have about 100 people in that building that we really brought downtown. We've probably brought 500 people downtown for jobs right now in our various projects in that building.
John, the assessed value,
Assessed value is, of that building is $151,900.
all right, that's what I thought.
One of the things I wanted to mention too is because there's, as Jay mentioned, there's other tenants in the building, other tenants in the health center property that, because they're tenants of the health center, they do pay a fairly substantial amount of real estate tax annually to the city. So I think it's worth mentioning that.
The health center pays a substantial amount of property tax to the city, as is now, through the pilot agreement?
It's through the assessor's office. I'm not sure if it's a pilot or they base their assessment on the amount of lease space.
But it would be the same kind of a pilot agreement, because they're a nonprofit, so, is that what?
Jay, I'm not sure if you.
Yeah, the way I understand it is that in a nonprofit setting, if we rent space out to a for-profit, that space becomes taxable.
Yes, it does.
So we carve that out of our space. So we have a cardiology program, Hampden County Cardiology. They pay rent to us in that building, and we believe that money then is taxed and goes to the city. When we first opened up, we had Lewis and Clark Pharmacy on the first floor, and their rent was taxable, or their space was taxable. So to the extent that for-profits come in, if we bring other nonprofits in, that doesn't work. But if we bring for-profits in, it would. At the moment, quite frankly, the space in the building we're talking about is not anticipated to be in private sector hands. I think the optometry program we want to develop is part of the Holyoke Health Center. It would remain a nonprofit. But
Now, Jay, because I was reading the application, and I mean, this great conference rooms are great, and waiting rooms are great, and training rooms are great. But are we going to use much of the building for storage? Is much of the building going to be used for storage, or is it hard to say? Or
hopefully not, because we have a basement in the other building, and things that we do store are down there. We don't have a lot of storage, and actually we meet with the fire department regularly, and they discourage us from having storage in the building. Most of our medical records would be a large storage item. We've moved them off-site to a private storage company. We've gone to electronic records now, so we don't have additional paper accruing. We might have some of our maintenance programming housed in that building, and so that might be some product, but it wouldn't be a storage. It's really, the very top levels might be storage, because those would be more difficult to access, but the lower 3 levels at least we think would be optometry, conference rooms, some expansion of existing
And
programs.
when do you think you're going to get a sense of the optometry application?
So 2 things are happening right now. We have a proposal in front of us to put another $300,000 into our pharmacy space. We have a conference room right that abuts the pharmacy. We're going to encroach on that conference room space to expand the pharmacy because we need more space. That space in the conference room potentially could have been the optometry program, but if we get the solutions building, we are evaluating, we will have some architectural evaluation to understand whether we can move the optometry cost effectively into the high street. We prefer that to remain in a retail mode, so that's a good location for that. We currently have space in our basement with some rudimentary eye services, but we really want to update all of that. So we don't have a formal timetable or plan. The funds that we received this year for optometry updates are already in our hands for equipment and some staffing to get the program started. We will, once we have control of that building, begin to look at, ways to finance full development, but we don't have any formal timeline right now.
There's really nothing firm at that point, so it may not be even an optometrist at this point, because
Absolutely, it could be something else. We've talked to other programs that want to be there within our own building. We've looked at all the things that we could expand into, and there are many opportunities. Eye care is the most specific right now. If we develop the eye care program, there's a revenue source to then pay back our investment in that, so the eye care makes the most sense to us.
Anybody else? No?
Jay, I'm not sure if we heard about, what is the current total amount of employees at the health center employees?
Holyoke Health Center, our own staff are about 300. We have Behavioral Health Network is in our building, and across the street in the old credit union building, they have about 50, I think, employees downtown. Gandara came through our building. They're not in our building anymore, but we want to take credit for bringing them downtown. There's almost 100 in that facility. Square One Daycare Center is in our building. They're tenants. They have, I think, 25 to 30 people. Cardiology practice is in our building. Probably 8 or 10 people. Holyoke Medical Center, between the midwifery practice and the mammogram laboratory, probably has 25. So there's 500 or so people that are downtown working today as a result of our investments, we think.
And the optometry would be approximately how many new employees if it?
You know what, it would start probably under 10, optometrist, an assistant, a front desk, that sort of stuff. We're hoping to have full-service eyeglasses there, and if you have the retail trade, then we have more clerical and support people to help fit people to eyeglasses and so forth. 20 is a high number, I think, for that practice. Probably more like 10 to 15 at full service. Our pharmacy right now has about 35 employees in it. So if I use that as a model, it's probably significantly larger than eye care would be, but 10 to 20 is the eventual.
Thank you.
Where do all the employees park?
We lease about half of the parking garage across the street here. We pay the monthly rent for all of our employees.
The
to
Mayor
park
Pro
at the-
Mayor Pro garage, right?
At the garage, yep.
Okay, you have a motion, please?
Motion to accept the proposal?
A second.
Okay, on the table is a motion to accept the proposal for the city to convey to the Holyoke Health Center the property at 245 High Street for $5,000. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so it's 3-0. So we'll recommend that to the city council, Jay. And it'll be the 17th of November, and we'll see where it goes from there. Okay?
Great. Thanks very
you,
much,
sir.
everybody.
Yep,
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jay.
Just hold your horses 1 second. Go ahead.
Ready? Motion to take item 4 off the table?
Second?
Okay, before us, item number 4, the city council approve the certified project and tax increment financing agreement for International Container Company slash, the Surlis? Surlis Associates LLC for its expansion at 122 Mosier Street. And we have with us tonight the Honorable Marcus Merrow and John Dijak, we know that, yeah, and do we have folks from,
If I may, these are four of the partners, brothers, Joseph, Kenneth, and Sean Searles, who run the business. Searles, correct.
okay, I mispronounced it then. Okay, sorry about that. So who do we have with us, John?
Well, we have an application before us.
But just,
for-
just name the brothers again? if I could.
Joseph, Ken, and Sean.
Okay,
The company International Container is located down on Mosier Street. It's kind of I think it probably has three, you could say it has three addresses. It's on Mosier, it's on North Bridge, it's on Winter. It's a very large property. I think it encompasses about 10 acres. And so the company is in a growth mode, and they requested a TIF as part of their expansion. They're planning for about a 10,000 square foot expansion to their existing building. Investing, their estimate is about $500,000 in the building, and about $500,000 in new equipment and associated costs. So close to $1 million total investment. Just want to mention a little bit of background on the company. They moved to Holyoke in 2001, purchased their building in 2006. At the time, their purchase was assisted with the TIF back then, and also a loan from HEDIC, which is just about paid off. They've been a company that has grown from 10 or 15 employees back then to 45 or more now. And so they're talking to the company over the last year about their ideas for expansion, and they decided to put on an addition to open up their space, and the addition would be on the north side of their property. And with that would come a minimum job creation commitment of 5 new employees, new full-time employees with preference to Holyoke residents. The other aspect of this is the city benefit is on the new value only. It's not an existing value. It's the incremental value that would be part of the incentive. What potentially could be substantial for the company is the state investment tax credit, because much of the company's sales are to out of state, and the state likes to see product leaving the state for sale. So if the council considers and approves this proposal, it would then have to go through another round of approvals with the State Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, where it would receive, if it receives final approval, then the TIF would be granted. So worked with the company closely. They've really developed this property over the time that they've owned it. They've had longtime tenants, including a company called Web Die Cutters, and also Laurel Pure Water is a tenant of theirs for a long time. The company was started by their father and now is handed off to the 4 sons in the ownership position. So, and I know they're available to answer any specific questions.
And if I could quickly add that beyond the job number creation, that is a minimum of 5 and the threshold, it also offers some seasonal benefits to retention of employees that are currently there. The expansion will provide a climate-controlled space, about 10,000 square feet, that will really help with the paint drying process on the equipment that they're assembling there, freeing up space inside their current space and allowing them to work in all seasons.
Councilor McGivern?
Marcus or John, new value, so are we looking at about a little less than $40,000 in taxes? Is it a 5-year increment?
5 years.
Yeah.
The potential local incentive would be between $30,000 and $35,000 total. On the local side, again, the potential for greater incentive is on the state side. The new value estimated by the assessors is about $300,000 in addition to this current value, which is about $1.4 million of this particular building. So there'd be some new growth there in tax
Okay,
value.
so 35,000. And new employees?
5, but
Five.
talking with the company, I think they were being conservative in their estimates.
Thank you.
Did the committee want to hear from any of the brothers?
We bark, but we don't bite.
Yeah, wait, gentlemen, why don't you pick one even, just kind of, instead of kind of repeating what Marcos and John said, why don't you just sort of elaborate on your company and then on your application, and then, you know, why, you know, more or less why this is, you know, important to your business.
Sure. So after we took over for our father, we had hit a big growth expansion period where we took on a lot of outside clients, waste management being one that we're looking to service in the coming years, on top of the 5 employees that John had explained.
I'm sorry, just your name, are you
I'm Joseph.
Joseph, okay. Okay, sorry, thank you.
On top of the 5 employees that John had explained, I'd just like to point out that of the 45 that we listed as currently employed at the time of the application, we're already at 50 plus with the growth that we've already seen. And we're also beginning a night shift in 2016, a second shift, which we estimate will employ roughly an additional 10 to 15 employees on top of the 5 additional employees that will come from the addition of the building and the freeing up of the extra manufacturing space.
And then this TIF application, Joseph, it's important, why?
This will allow us to use the available funds that we have now. One of the important things for us is is to be able to capture everything quickly in terms of companies like Waste Management, which are national companies. If we don't do it now, we may lose the ability or the opportunity to get it. The assistance from the state and the city are helpful to us because it gives us an opportunity to free up some of our capital that we're investing more quickly to invest in new equipment. For instance, we have a $115,000 piece of equipment we've already had to purchase to keep up with the increased output. So it allows us to capture those sales more quickly instead of having to spread out over a longer period of time that investment that we might normally have to do to be able to support that much of an investment all at once.
Okay, thank you. Any committee members have questions for Joseph or any of the brothers? Counselor?
I have a comment.
Comments? Or okay,
I
comments are
just
welcome.
like to say thank you for doing business in Holyoke. I think Marcos and John know I'm a big believer in the TIF. The TIF allows you, and Joe, you couldn't have said it better, it allows you to invest capital, you know. Well, we take a hit the city takes a hit for 4 to 5 years. In the meantime, we're looking at $1 million investment, new jobs. You've already proven new jobs even without the TIF, and it's just a wonderful way, I think, to be a partner with expansion of business and keeping business. And thank you for what you do in the city. And certainly if the chair is looking for a motion, I would make a motion to adopt the TIF agreement as presented.
I'll be looking for it in a second, but Counselor Valentin, do you want to make a comment? Or?
No, just, as Councilor McGivern said, just thank you for investing and staying and looking to grow. And I'm definitely impressed with the growth of employees that you just shared with us and the plans for the evening shift in 2016 with, 10 to 15 more folks. When John was speaking, there was talk about with the expansion, there would be some 5 new employees and that there would be a commitment to, prioritizing Holyoke folks. I'm assuming that would be similar for the evening shift in 2016, or is that different?
Correct, yeah. One of the issues we face, and this is something we've discussed over the past 2 or 3 months, is we're primarily welding, which in 2015 has been a dying trade. A lot of the local schools that we work with are graduating less and less students in this trade. So one of the things we've been discussing also is teaching the trade to a lot of the local people. So basically it benefits us and it also benefits a lot of the local community where we're teaching a trade and a skill to a lot of the people around who might otherwise not have the ability to go to school. We don't require certification. We work a lot with a lot of the graduates that we get now to get them into a production mode and a profitable mode, both for the company and what allows that employee to grow within the company. We promote from within. A lot of our managers were hired at the base level with our company and promoted within, and a lot of them do very well now with us. And we've been talking once again about training and teaching the trade to a lot of the local community. We advertise a lot with Craigslist, which is centered around Western Mass, focused on Western Mass. So a lot of our employees do come from the Holyoke area. We work with the I can't remember the name off the top, the pre-release center. We work a lot with the pre-release center and hiring a lot of the people from there as they transition. Westover Job Corps,
Great,
Lincoln Technical Institute, places like that.
great, thank you.
And John, where does this go after this? The Economic Assistance Coordinating Council?
It does. That's the state organization that reviews and approves TIF applications.
Okay, so we would go from here to our full city council on the 17th, and then it would just go right to their body, and then?
Correct.
How long does that take?
I believe their meeting, I believe their meeting's in December. I'm hopeful to have all the paperwork to them by I believe the 20th of November, to have it in, to meet their deadlines.
Okay.
I'm almost afraid to ask, but have you ever done anything with Dean Vocational?
Some, yep, a while ago, yep.
I'm
Very
trying to
good.
phrase it the right way, but was what was the effort on the Dean Vocational side?
We weren't working largely with the schools. Our increased demand for welders has grown a lot in the past couple of years. We've received many good students from there, and we haven't had any complaints about anything we've received from there. They have a good program over there. I think it was the volume of people we were able to get from there, which made us start to look at other avenues, Westover Job Corps, and places that specifically target the welding trade. Just because we had such a high demand for that specific trade, that's where I think we weren't getting enough applicants from Dean Tech.
That's good to hear. I wish there was more volume. I think they certainly could do more volume, but glad to see they were producing.
Yeah.
Any legendary welders in Holyoke you want to share with us?
Yeah. There was one, actually. He doesn't work with us. He's actually a state police officer now, but John Alvarado started with our company, and he was amazing. I have to admit, I've never seen anyone as good as him. Was he a Dean Tech grad? He may have been, yeah. Yeah, I believe he's a state policeman now, but he started with our company 8 or 10 years ago.
He
So
went to the
military, yep.
but the National Guard, and he came back.
I'm sure I don't have to tell you, welding is an art in itself.
It is, yeah.
And it's so important, but to be able to do it correct is incredible to watch and to see the results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we got to vote, and then so I'll take a motion now.
Make a motion to adopt the TIF as presented and to forward it to the city council.
Second.
Okay, so on the motion to adopt the TIF, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
3-0, so thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good luck, and this will go forward to city council next week, and then we'll see what the pleasure of that body is, and then from there, hopefully it'll prove it, and we'll just ship it on to the Commonwealth, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, really appreciate it.
Maybe you should check in with Dean Tech again, just in case.
We're looking for welders, so if they have them.
Well, we'll make that known, so,
Yeah, we'll spread the word.
okay.
All set?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion adjourned, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.